What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Boys Do Sports. Today we got week 6 starts and sits, and then we'll discuss some defenses at the end. Quick PSA, we got another early game Sunday. Please get up early and check your lineups. I don't want to hear everybody bitching about how Jalen Warren got ruled out right before the game and all this, yada, yada, yada. Go check your lineups, man. Get up, check your lineup, just do it. Go back to bed if you want. Quarterback start. We got Matt Stafford. His next victim is the Baltimore Ravens, who allow the second most fantasy points per game. And over the last 2 weeks, Stroud and Mahomes each put up almost 30 fantasy points. And this defense is awful. So Stafford has scored almost 30 points in each of the last 2 weeks with 3 touchdowns and 375 yards per game. He could very easily make this 3 weeks in a row. Stroud balled out against him, and he has looked bad all year. So think of what Matt Stafford could do with Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. Going to be another 30-point game at least, as long as this game don't get out of hand. Running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, a.k.a. Bill. We saw the Bill breakout last week. It was beautiful. And he should continue this week against a Bears defense who allow the 4th most fantasy points per game and the 2nd most rushing yards per game to running backs. He did play a season-high snap percentage last week, and the second player with the snap percentage at running back was Chris Rodriguez, and he's not expected to play. So I'd expect to see the highest snap percentage this week for Bill. So pretty excited about that. Easy defense to do it against. It is a full-fledged breakout for Bill. Wide receiver, Tetaroa, McMillan, T-Mac, Tet, whatever you want to call him. Fantasy managers may be upset with Tet's 12.4 fantasy points per game, but he has yet to score a touchdown, and the Cowboys allow the most fantasy points per game and touchdowns to wide receivers. They also allow the most yards per game to opposing offenses. Ted has had a 23% target share and a 42% air yard share this year. There's just no one that's competing in there. And he's 14th in the league in receiving yards. He also has had at least 8 targets per game. So no touchdowns, just full go. Tight end David Njoku. After starting the first 4 weeks with 9 or less fantasy points in each game, he broke out with his best game of the season with 6 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Not sure if this correlates with the quarterback change, but either way, Gabriel is starting again. We got Gabriel with his safety blanket, David Njoku. And the Steelers allow the 4th most fantasy points per game to tight ends. So, there we go. Getting into our sits, we got quarterback Justin Fields. Even though he scored 25 plus fantasy points in each of his 3 full games, I'm out on Fields overseas in London. No thanks. Plus, this is his toughest matchup so far this season. The Broncos are the 2nd toughest matchup against quarterbacks, only allowing 13.2 fantasy points per game. And they've also given up the fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. They've really contained them well. Running back Derrick Henry. I never imagined it would come to this, but since week 2, he has averaged 7.8 fantasy points per game, and that's carried by 2 touchdowns. Lamar is not expected to play. Actually, he's not going to play. I did read that today, which is a huge blow to this offense and Henry's efficiency. The Rams are the 2nd worst matchup for running backs, only allowing 13.3 fantasy points per game, and are the only team in the NFL to not give up a rushing touchdown to running backs. Wide receiver, we're going to pair it with Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson. He's currently the wide receiver 5 between Justin Fields and Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, but in week 2, when Fields played 62% of the snaps, it was over half, before going out with that concussion, Wilson finished with 9 fantasy points because Fields was having a bad game. I'd expect the same against the Broncos, who allow the 3rd lowest fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Wilson has played against Pat Surtain in each of the last 3 seasons and is averaging 7.3 fantasy points per game against him. So not good. Not good. Tight end, we got Dalton Kincaid. Hurts my soul, but it's time. It's really tough for these players that play on Monday nights with injuries for fantasy because you just don't know, especially at a limited position like tight end. Like if they just decide to rule them out Monday during the day, all the tight ends have already played. I mean, at least in this sake, you go pick up Dawson Knox or something because Kyle Pitts is already going to be rostered in that game. I guess there is another Monday night game, maybe if Zach Ertz or who are they playing? The Bears, Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland. I don't know if Colston Loveland's playing. But either way, Kincaid has been limited all week in practice, and it looks like he should play. So that's good. But he already averages less than 50% of the snaps so far this year. And if he's limited in the game at all, we could see a whole lot more Dawson Knox because they like to use Knox as well. They've been really 50-50 this year when Knox has been healthy. And the Falcons allow a league-low 3.2 fantasy points per game to tight ends. So that's really, really bad. Get into some defenses. Now, most of us are streaming defenses because the defense position is so random. But it's fun. It is fun. The obvious starters, highly owned. If you got them, you're starting them. Colts versus the Cardinals. Patriots versus the Saints. Broncos versus the Jets. Steelers versus the Browns. Bills versus the Falcons. And Packers versus the Bengals. A couple less owned teams to start. You know, that 40 to 50, 30% rostered. Raiders versus Titans. Seahawks versus Jaguars. Rams versus Ravens. Chargers versus Dolphins. Now, that one's a little tricky because the Chargers, we just don't know what they're going to be. So injured. But the Dolphins are bad too. So, Chargers, disciplined team at least. The Dolphins are not. Then we got the Browns versus the Steelers. And the Titans versus the Raiders. I think that either defense over there could be good. And if Geno Smith plays, he's throwing 3 interceptions. So, there we go. Couple of highly owned defenses to avoid. We got the Lions versus Chiefs and the Chiefs versus Lions. This is going to be stupid high scoring. Like, ridiculous. The Lions secondary is beat up bad. So I'm avoiding both of these defenses. They're super high owned, up in the 80%, which is fine for future reference, but I'm not starting them this week. No, thank you. But yep, guys, that is all for my starts and sits. Good luck this week with the fantasy matchups. Thanks for watching.